Too long.
It is. It was. That's what she said.
We just like to talk. It's hard.
Stop it.
All right. So the first topic that we have here on our talking points today is talking about Macross versus Harmony Gold, and Macross is an IP, and the controversy surrounding Harmony Gold, Robotech, Macross, and the like, that, to be completely fair, has been really irritating for decades at this point. And now, now that we've got the agreement and things are looking like it's getting closer to international distribution of Macross, after years of not being able to access it outside of Japan, plus the new Robotech box set that Funimation announced within the past few days at the time of this recording, is whether or not we should still be mad about this kind of thing, and still consider HG to be like, well, not really consider them to be an enemy. That's kind of a dumb way to put it. But really looking at whether or not it's worth spending our time and energy still being angry about it.
Mm-hmm. Is HG hate something that we should be promoting? We never really promoted it, but we certainly brought it up a lot, and we made fun of it. And it was, well, to me, it's always been a joke. I was over it probably 2008 when Frontier came out. It was like a big deal, but it just seemed like it wasn't affecting me. I know people were mad because the toys weren't coming here. The Blu-rays weren't coming here to the US. But to me, like, the toys were going to be expensive no matter what. And as far as the Blu-ray or media, I feel like they're not going to be as good as the ones this is pretty selfish of me, but they're not going to be presented as well as the ones in Japan with, all the extras, the box art and stuff like that. The stuff that we're going to get is going to be in the Walmart bins and the Best Buy bins. And, it's going to be like, so they're going to be cheap, like $15 clearance. And to me, like, it never really mattered because I wanted like the good stuff. And it was only going to come out in Japan. That's my opinion. I guess maybe we'll find out how they're going to market it soon. I guess, what do you think? Delta's going to come out after the movie comes out? You think they're going to market it here in the US? You guys?
I have no idea. And like, even though the announcement came out in April, there hasn't been anything from any of the known English distributors in the US, nobody outside the US either, for who's actually got this. Because at least the way I see it is, even if it wasn't quite ready for release yet, as soon as someone gets Macross, because it is a legacy property, and because of the way that people hold it so near and dear and the response that happened when the agreement was announced, you'd think that these companies would announce it right away that they've got Macross.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. And honestly, it kind of depends on each company. Like, for example, like Funimation box sets are decent, like in terms of quality. Like, I have a couple of their special editions and they're pretty solid. And they get as many extras as they can.
The Cowboy Bebop set, that's Funimation, wasn't it?
Yes, and actually
it's excellent. It comes with like a super thick line art book that's got tons of great stuff in it.
They released some special editions too for Cowboy Bebop that included limited edition LPs as well, like vinyl LPs. And I guess it just kind of depends on each series, because with Cowboy Bebop, they were able to get all those extras and do all that, where you have all these really neat things, that even you might not get with the Japanese release. But for other ones, they're pretty bare bones, so it just kind of depends on what they have access to. I personally don't want Funimation working on Macross. This is just my personal thing, because I don't want them to mess it up. Okay. Their quality control on a couple of their not biggest, but a couple of their big releases recently just hasn't been good. Like, discs not working and having to send out replacement discs. It happened with one of the ReZero box sets. The upscaling on one of their Dragon Ball, I want to say it was Dragon Ball Z box sets, the orange box sets, was not good. The colors were all distorted. There was a lot of grain. There were audio issues with that particular set as well. Like, it's just the quality control that's a thing for me. But yeah, I think it really just depends on the distributor for the quality of what we're going to get compared to, what we could have gotten, if we imported it from Japan. I do know that any other distributor besides Harmony Gold, though, it is going to be nicer than whatever HG is putting out.
Do you guys have any of the 90s Macross Plus DVD releases? How are those? Yeah, Chad, how was it?
I still have the manga release, I think. And I also own the Japanese release in a box set. In fact, it's on my website. The Macross Plus Archives, it was called, which comes in a DVD case, a little cardboard case, and comes with a booklet and everything. And it's very good. The manga release for Macross Plus, like way back in the 90s, both on VHS and DVD, is like literally bare bones.
Yeah, I have those too.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they might give it like a deluxe treatment. So what do you guys think about the toys? Do you think the toys would be a lot cheaper if you had like Bluefin distribution?
No.
Nope.
Not at all.
See,
it actually might even be more expensive because not only do you have to cover the cost of the actual toy itself and what you're required to sell it at for the retail suggested price, but they're probably going to put a little extra on top of it so that way whatever distributor is releasing those toys can also make a profit. Like, look at Big Bad Toy Store's release of the Clon Kit.
Oh yeah, for
the reissue for the Valkyrie Variable Fido Girls. It's cheaper on Ami than it is on Big Bad Toy Store by like $20. It's a big price difference.
Well, to be fair, Big Bad Toy Store has been like one of the more expensive places to get collectibles, like always.
Right. And that's the way that it is generally, because not only are they selling it for what it's the original like creators are asking for it, like the toy manufacturer, but they're putting a little bit on top so they also can make a profit because they're a business and they still have to make some money so they can continue operating.
That wasn't said as a judgment. That was just said as like fact. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. I've bought things from Big Bad Toy Store and I've been very satisfied. But like I say, they are a little bit more expensive.
Right.
Is that offsetted? Because here in the U.S., it would be offsetted by the shipping because they have a $4.95 flat rate shipping. How is it in Canada? Is it?
It's a scam. Yeah. Our shipping costs are ludicrous, and there's all sorts of like things going on in Canada that like we have a huge problem with couriers.
It's hard,
and things like they try to basically charge you a bunch of miscellaneous fees. They call it brokerage, but that's not it's not what it is at all. Like you get it from like any other source, like just like snail mail, like expedited, whatever, your postal service and stuff like that. These things are not a factor and never have been. But for some reason, the last I want to say the last 20 to 25 years, there's been some sort of long-term scam running that all of the courier services are in on here in Canada, where they charge you brokerage.
Alex, we have American privilege because we don't have customs fees and brokerage.
That was always my reason for not caring about the licensing, debate and all concerning HG, because I always thought it wasn't gonna matter much as far as being a Macross fan. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You can still critique Harmony Gold, but I feel like the whole don't buy HG merchandise because you're supporting somebody that's blocking Macross merchandise into getting into the US. I feel like that's kind of over. I don't know. Do you guys still feel that way?
Yes. And not necessarily because I have the same kind of like long-term feelings about Harmony Gold. Like I got into Macross without Robotech. Macross Frontier was my first Macross, and I found everything else after that. And I actually didn't learn about the whole thing with Harmony Gold and Robotech until I had been a Macross fan for like 2-3 years. So it's not like
You're so lucky.
I know I don't feel like personally wounded by HG, but there's just so much that they've done that to me it feels very unethical, where they've gone, litigation after litigation after litigation, so they can try to get more money, so they can try to stay afloat. The using people's fan art to promote their stuff, not always with credit, not standing up against Titan Comics when their artists trace art that they don't actually have the rights to use. Like they trace Macross assets that are not included in the designs that Harmony Gold has the license to. And they don't say a word. Like it's one thing, if they don't know about it, but this is all stuff that has to go across their desks before it gets published. And people find out about it after the comic is already published. So that's where my issue with HG lies, is that they've knowingly done things that are unethical and wrong in terms of the artists and creatives. And really the way they've handled this whole thing, I really don't care for the way they present themselves online. That's my beef with them, and why I wasn't particularly happy that they're part of this agreement.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So it's that. It's not because I'm like, they blocked Macross all this time, which, still that kind of sucks. But now we have the agreement and someone just needs to license it and it won't be blocked anymore. But because they've done things that are wrong and they haven't said anything to either own up to it or apologize for any of it.
They're not going to.
And they're not going to.
Yeah, they're not going to.
That's who the people are that work there. They're not going to do any of that. So that's something that's where my thing is in not supporting them.
That I would totally agree with that, and add that I think people really need to, like, yes, the history is now like of all these blockages and these litigations and stuff like that has come to an end, but that doesn't change the corporate culture of Harmony Gold in any way. In fact, it probably even emboldens them a bit because of this news, right? Because it works to their advantage. So,
well, that's my point. It's like I'm not trying to absolutely like absolve HG of their wrongdoings or anything like that, but I guess what I'm saying is it's still relevant to do the whole boycott thing, but that's Celia's point of view, and it's pretty valid, I think. I've never personally done it, because there's just so many things that I'm a fan of, and they're the only license holder. So I mean, on a personal level, like I stopped buying a lot of their stuff just because of quality, but as far as if they just happen to bring out something that would satisfy me as a fan, I have no qualm. I never had any qualms about buying it back then. My take is like, if Kawamori had a kid, I probably sent them through college already. Like I paid up the ass on Macross merchandise.
The amount of money, I would imagine that the amount of money just the three of us in this conversation have spent on Macross over the years is horrendous. It's embarrassing, probably.
So for me to buy one, Robotech thing, like I'm fine with it.
I also think there's some validity to an understanding that there are people who watched Robotech and liked it as Robotech. So there's definitely people out there that enjoy that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them in indulging in that interest, because the reality is that they have it. Just because, like, for example, I'm not going to really think that's great, because I'm like, really? We know that it's made up of these other shows. You could be watching that instead. But at the same time, someone could tell me the same thing about The Swan Princess, which is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. That is not good, like objectively not a good movie, but I still love it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of respecting each other as fans and as humans. If they want to do that, great. That's their decision and their money. They can do what they want. And if you don't like it, you can either tell them in a respectful way or keep your mouth shut. Like, At work, we call that having an inside your head thought. It stays in your brain and it doesn't come out. And it's okay for some things to stay as an inside your head thought.
Yeah.
I'd agree. Yeah. I just, yeah, like personally, I won't buy anything Harmony Gold, no matter what product they produce. But that's just me too. Like I'm kind of like that. I'm kind of like the rare extreme. Like when I found out like what Blizzard did about the whole Hong Kong issue and stuff like that, I'm never buying another Blizzard video game ever again. You know,
Which
sort of thing.
sucks.
Just like that's just, you know, how it is. I don't care how interested I'm in it or how much I think I'd like it and stuff. It's just, it's a hard stop for me when companies do that, which is why a lot of companies go to great pains to protect themselves, because they don't want to miss out even on the small number of people like myself who will say, no, I'm not buying it anymore. Because that's, for them, that's lost money. I mean, I'm alone, like in a group of like 30 or 40 people, 30 or 40 fans in a room. I'll be the only one who will actually like both say I'm not buying anything from Blizzard Entertainment ever again, and actually back that up with dollars in action, where I will never spend another dollar on them again for the rest of my life. But there's also like, there's lots of me's around too. Once you start adding up entire countries, multiple countries across the world, that adds up into a lot of money, which is why people are like, a lot of these companies are trying to really like, you know, be careful about that sort of stuff, because that can translate, once you engage like, you know, an entire nation or the world, you can lose a lot of money. There's a lot of potential money, and it goes both ways too. Like, I mean, the reason Blizzard did that and whatnot was because of the Chinese market. It's a huge moneymaker and everything. Anyway, I don't want to get on that for too long, but digressing back to HG, yeah, I won't support HG anymore. But I'm not, like I said, that I think we're all on the same page as far as like merchandise isn't going to get any cheaper. The problems between like HG and Big West and stuff like that don't affect the cost involved in these things at all. I don't think people understand that, or maybe they do, but we just don't hear about it. We just hear like the loudest ones saying, I mean, HG sucks and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm on board with that, but at the same time, that doesn't change the economic reality of the cost of all this merchandise. It's still like super expensive. I mean, the cost is going up in Japan.
Yes.
Right. The cost of all this merchandise is going for books, for CDs, for toys, for all this sort of stuff. It's increasing, just like the cost of living is increasing in all of the developed countries around the world, you know, and that's, you know, that's a discussion like way beyond what we're going to talk about here. So, yeah, the prices are not going to be affected. We're not going to get cheaper merchandise. It's just going to be expensive. The only difference is now that hopefully maybe we can get more access to it, I guess, like more legitimate, more faster, maybe even, hopefully, I don't know, ways to get a hold of our merchandise. But it's still going to be like, there's not going to be any cost savings here. It's still going to be ridiculous. You're not going to get a DX. You're not going to get a Bandai DX Valkyrie for anything less than like $175 sort of thing. It's just, it's going to be expensive still.
Yeah. I do think one of the things that I was just thinking about this, Chad, when you were saying how, like, you know, you put your money where your mouth is. And if you don't support a company, you don't give them your money to show that support from the, you know, if they do something you disagree with. If you want to indulge in your fandom, but don't want to give these guys money because you don't agree with what they're doing, you know, for Harmony Gold, for example, then buy stuff secondhand. Like, I have the Animego box set. That's a Harmony Gold product, but I bought it from Alex. Harmony Gold didn't get that money. Alex did. So
I got it on clearance, you know? So I didn't pay.
So there are options like that where people can still do that. Like, that's one of the things that I actually decided to do with Rurouni Kenshin stuff, because I don't want any money to go to Nobuhiro Watsuki because he's using it on pornography, and particularly pornography of minors. And he just got a slap on the wrist for it. That man's not getting another cent of my money. So I'm more than happy to buy that stuff secondhand, you know, thrifted, whatever, so that I'm still able to enjoy the work because I can separate it from the creator, but make sure that he doesn't get any financial support from me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice alternative if people feel like they don't want to support, but still want to still enjoy the work and be able to separate it from the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder with the Blizzard games because there's not really an easy way to access those through those means. But
yeah, of course, yeah. But that's a separate issue. But I actually just wanted to bring up like something that Alex said, which is not in another show that we did, but like just in our own talks and stuff like that. And I think Alex, you probably expand on this better. Like these are all like companies too, like and like having like some sort of unusual loyalty to some of these companies who are selling you entertainment and merchandise and stuff like that. You've also got to take a step back from that as well to a certain extent and realize that this is just a transactional relationship, and you shouldn't be putting that much emphasis or on the money that you're giving them, because they're charging you a certain amount too, which might not always be justified. The cost of their products are not always justified and whatnot. And it's like, you shouldn't have like, it's like kind of like having loyalty to McDonald's or something, or loyalty to Pepsi or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, these are not companies that you want to put your human loyalty into, because you're a demographic, you're a consumer. Oftentimes you're not even looked at as an individual. You're just someone else to add to the net income of that company for a year.
Yeah.
So you gotta take a step back and keep things into perspective here.
Just because you're anti-HG, should you be pro Big West?
That's
it's
right.
like, have we really looked into what Big West is all about? I'm not saying they're a bad company. We just don't know. It's just to be like fighting over McDonald's and Wendy's. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you guys fighting over? It's like they're just there to take your money.
Oh.
So
what was when we see examples of that all the time, and companies like they take advantage of this. I mean,
they do it on purpose.
There was an issue like just like 6 months ago or something like that, where there was that big war between Apple and the creators of Fortnite. I can't remember what the company is named that creates the game Fortnite, and they actually started a public relations war in the public sphere and tried to get the fans of either company to fight for them. These are two like huge multinational companies that, like, by the way, have their own skeletons in their closet, and we should not be siding with either of them. And they're trying to get the public to side against the other company as a negotiation tactic for getting their product back on the Apple Store. It's just like, it's insanity. It's like these companies do not deserve any fans or any consumer loyalty whatsoever, and they're actually using you in the public sphere as a tactic against each other in a negotiation. It's like, it's sickening is what it is. And people like just are, people's tribalism is so bad that they're just eager to like side with like us versus them, sort of thing. And I'm just like, whoa. I even wrote about it on Facebook, actually. I said, like, hold on a second, at the time, like, let's like step back from this and, take a good look at what's happening here.
All right, let's talk about Macross as an IP, which is, this kind of goes hand in hand with this subject that we're talking about. It was my idea that Macross wasn't supposed to go on after the first series, and I know Celia schooled me on this before we started this broadcast, but we could talk about it still for the people that are watching. I was under the opinion that they sold the worldwide rights to Macross to Tatsunoko, and because they didn't really count on it being as successful, and that was really and to just kind of like perpetuate that fight, over something that they were willing to let go of. To me, well, I guess the question is like, is it still worth fighting over this, these two camps, when it was really like a Big West that screwed up in the first place? Celia, do you want to repeat what you told me before the show?
So there's, and it goes around, and I see it in circles too. There's this misconception that Big West sold the stuff to Tatsunoko Productions, but Tatsunoko Productions was actually a producer of SDF Macross.
Yeah.
So they provided funds and labor, helped connect them with the outsourced studios like Star Pro, unfortunately. So that's part of where this mess really gets kind of tricky, because there are so many hands in the pot for Macross. Like, it was a co-pro between Big West, Artland, and Tatsu Pro that, Tatsu Pro licensed out the animation to Harmony Gold, not the IP.
It was Studio New through Big West through Studio New.
Yeah, Studio New. But a lot of fans mix up Macross the IP versus just the animation itself. Because what has been licensed out to Harmony Gold is only the animation and only, I think it's like 51 character designs or character and mecha designs or whatever. I forget the exact number. But that's it. They don't have any sort of ownership in the IP as a whole, because that is still with Big West, originally Studio New and now Big West. Yeah, and I think because of some of that misinformation, it can make it easy to perpetuate this idea of us versus them. Like, well, if they, really thought that this was going to go somewhere, they wouldn't have done that. But the reality is at the time that Macross was being produced, was that Studio New was a very poor studio. They didn't have the money and the labor that they needed to complete a full television series. So that's where they need the extra help. And sometimes having that extra help means you have to give up some things. Not that they don't own that animation, like they still do, but Tatsu Pro also is an owner, and Tatsu Pro as an owner can license it, as they see fit according to whatever agreements. And that's how we ended up with them licensing it to Harmony Gold in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's something, though, that I've only learned in recent years. And that's after also taking a semester of IP and copyright law in college. Like, trying to understand this without understanding how that stuff works, or even like really how the production process of anime works just on a surface level, it can be so confusing. And I think part of the misinformation also fuels that idea that, Harmony Gold's all bad, but Studio New and Big West did this, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. But it's also hard finding the actual information, because there are so many people in Macross fandom and probably in Robotech fandom too. I don't know. I'm not in those circles, but that try to say that they're the expert and give their version of what happened. So it can be unclear at times.
Well, that's my point, though. I mean, I think the problem is that a lot of people think that now that there's an agreement that, there's a bunch of misconceptions. A lot of people think that SDF is going to be like on the clear also, which they're not. SDF, DYRL will be like, the first actual misconception, the big one, is that they're going to work together in everything.
No, that's not happening.
That's the big. A lot of people think like it's like I've read articles where it's like, Big West is going to work with HG to distribute Macross worldwide, and it's like, well, they worked together on the agreement, and that was it. But now Big West is free to find distributors outside of Japan, as far as Flashback, maybe Macross 7 and up, Macross Plus and up, depending on which one you consider first. See, what's my point? My second point. The other misconception is that that SDF and DYRL will also be part of, like, people are going to be expecting BF1 DX, that Big West or Bandai will be distributing those toys as well, and they're not, unless they reach to an agreement with HG to bring it stateside, So that's kind of like my point is, because of that contract that they did with Tatsunoko, do people still have the right to be mad at HG because they're not going to get that stuff? Or, it's like a complicated deal, and there's going to be a lot of hate coming out of it, and it's going to be misdirected hate, and it's gonna land on our groups. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that because especially when you read the press release for the agreement, it's very well, it's not very, but it's kind of vague and it can be
It's
a
kinda
little
vague.
unclear if you don't read it carefully.
Yeah.
It does make it sound like Harmony Gold is going to be the main distributor for Macross when that's not the case. When you read it, it just says that Big West is now free to seek out international distributors and that Harmony Gold can now release Robotech stuff in Japan and also the Robotech movie that they've been trying to get off the ground for over a decade can also come out in Japan. I also think there's just a lot of wishful thinking. You know, people haven't had access to this stuff for so long, or they've had to access it through means that are really difficult and or illegal. That the idea of being able to stream, you know, Do You Remember Love on Netflix instead of having to import the Blu-ray or dig around for a pirated copy is really nice. And the thought of, you know, maybe I don't have to go through pre-order hell to get a DX. That stuff doesn't change.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually think that a broader audience will make getting those DXs even harder because you're going to have more people added to the pool. And also, I think it shows that there's really just kind of this misconception of how it works. Like, for example, there's a lot of things with ZYRL that make it hard to license because it's not just Big West and Tatsupro. You're also dealing with Toho Cinemas and like I think at least one or two other companies that they have to try to work around with it, you know? So that just has a lot of moving targets and that makes it especially hard. And that's something that even Kev McKeever has said when he was talking about the agreement, because I watched a live stream he was on where people were asking about Do You Remember Love? And he's like, there's a lot of pieces moving for that one. And it's just a matter of getting them all to line up. So they may not even be able to get it, depending on how difficult the process is, even though they technically hold the license to all the animation that Tatsupro did for the TV series. I don't know if that applies to the movie, but yeah, it's a mess. It's a big mess.
Yeah, DORL is a big one because every time we do a screening for our group, that's the one that kind of like, there's a lot of people that'll just watch it all the way through. It doesn't even matter what version it is. We do Clash of the Bionoid. A lot of people come and watch a screening like on our Discord server. You know.
Yeah.
Well, it's the best version. It's the that's why people love it. It's the best animated version of the
Clash
original.
Of the Bionoids?
Yes,
No.
Clash of the Bionoids.
Do You Remember Love? Do You Remember Love?
Yeah,
Do You Remember Love is the best animated version of the classic Macross, and it was also made during the classic Macross era. So all the original people who worked on the original show, including the animators and character designers and stuff like that, they were all there to make that movie and make it the best that they could with the animation technique and technology that was available at that time. And it goes without saying that film looks incredible. It's one of the best animated films of the 1980s, hands down. That's just how it is. It's a gorgeous looking movie, and if you love that style of animation from Japan in the 80s and whatnot, it's an absolute joy to watch. So I think that's why it gets everybody excited. Yeah, I mean, it's the one that I go to, like, whenever I'm feeling bad about an episode of SDF Macross. I just like, I wish was like, I was like, I just wish this was better animated. I always have Do You Remember Love to go back to and go, there you are.
Right?
There
it's a work
you
of
are.
art.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, all the original characters, all the original Valkyries, all that sort of stuff, just gorgeously animated. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I wish the entire TV series was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's why we have a video about reanimating the original. So look it up.
Yeah. Which is something we could gush about forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Cool. So, all right. So what are your final thoughts about like this whole, where are we with this whole HD versus Big West?
I think it's going to be another situation of where, with these videos and stuff like that, all we're doing is just asking people to think a little bit more when they post about these topics. That's it, because we don't really have any, authority or anything to start, bullying people around or anything like that when it comes to this stuff. It's a call to reason. is what it is, you know. You're ultimately, everybody is like at Macross Fan Central and stuff like that. They're the community and they decide how the community goes. But we're always trying to be a little bit more empathetic, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more intelligent, you know, and not like constantly repeat the same things over and over again. Because it also, like, one of the things we're trying to do with our community all the time, and people have commented on this as well on our board, on our Facebook group and whatnot, is that you don't want things to get boring.
Yeah.
You know, you want things to stay interesting. You want interesting conversations to happen and whatnot. And, you know, yes, sometimes that means talking about old stuff, but sometimes it means talking about old stuff in a new frame of mind, in a new, you know, looking at it from a new point of view, all that sort of stuff. And like, still, like, you know, talking intelligently about it, thinking about it, and, you know, coming up with interesting things to talk about, because that's the lifeblood of any fan community. So I think going forward with the HG and Harmony Gold stuff, there's still going to be people that hate on HG. I mean, I guess I'm one of them. But I will agree that I don't think it's all that necessary to be all that militant about it or knee-jerk about it anymore. Just, yeah, it's not necessary to go over that again and again and again. Let's just sort of like let's think of new ways to discuss certain subjects and take new approaches to stuff and make the conversation a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point about it gets boring. I think that's my main contention about this whole thing. Also, like, you kind of like water down the whole subject, and then when something really does happen, it just becomes like one of the things that's wrong about HG, or, you know, whatever, right? If there's like big news, it just kind of like, it might disappear into the ether. I mean, big news is big news, but, you know, it becomes old when it's all about, like, you know, oh, let's put it to HG's face, or something like that, you know. And I think that as time goes, I bet you anything, it'll be like the Robotech people that'll be mad at HG, you know, at the end, because they're the ones that are suffering the most.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm really worried about again, because I've said it so many times before. It's just like the Robotech fans are the most abused fans that have ever existed in any fandom. I think that
Yeah.
HG just constantly, like, tells them one thing and then does nothing, and just keeps them, like, you know, dangling a carrot and stuff like that, and keeps producing bad content or no content at all. And it's just give these people something that they can, you know, they can enjoy and stuff like that. And, you know, if you're gonna hold on to the IP for 30 years, do something with it.
Exactly.
You know, and give these fans what they're asking. I mean, they're, you know, don't throw away the, you know, the loyalty and the passion and the interest that these Robotech fans have for this property. Like, give them what they, you know, what they want, you know, out of it, and do that. And it's just like, I think I agree with you, Alex. I think that there's actually a concern that this is just going to be a repeat. Even though it looks like it's big news and stuff like that, it's got everybody excited again, and I feel like it's just going to be HG letting everybody down yet another time, you know, again.
Yeah. You know, for my final thoughts, I'll just reiterate my first point. You know, I don't like Harmony Gold and I don't feel like supporting them, but I would much rather spend my energy doing other things besides dunking on them when there's not a need to dunk on them.
Yeah.
You know, save that energy and save that passion for when they actually do something that is worth bringing attention to and being, you know, militant about it, as Chad said. There's no need to go after the little nitpicks that aren't actually, like, wrong or unethical or violate, you know, any sort of legal things that we perceive, because obviously we don't know, since we're on the fandom side and not on the industry side. But there's no need to, I don't know, we just need to chill out, enjoy the things we love, and spend time doing that instead.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, and that's it for us. Thank you for watching our videos. Once again, please make sure that you comment on our videos if you'd like to share more about what we've talked about today, whether you agree or disagree. We'd love to hear it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos, and lets us know more about what kind of content you want to see in the future. Chad, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Macross Mecha Manual, my website, or you can find me on the Facebook and Twitter pages for the Macross Mecha Manual, and you can also email me at marchingcw@hotmail.com, and I will see you there, I guess.
Cool. Alex, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Macross Fan Central, the Facebook group, or you could find me on Twitter as Macross Tweet, or you could visit our Discord server, which is also called Macross Fan Central. Just join and leave us messages. We're all there. So what about you, Celia? Where are you going to be at?
You can find me on Facebook at Celia Rose Cosplay and on Twitter at Planets Twinkle. I'm also the director of social media for ToonamiFaithful.com. So if you're interested in Toonami and other Toonami-related news, I run those accounts and I see any interactions, comments, questions, posts, likes, retweets, everything for that site as well.
Cool. All right, guys. See ya. Bye.